Hello everyone, I'm Rob Smith, the In the Black Quant Edge VTF here at T3 Live with this week's market wrap-up. And let's take a look here. We got SPY another week up. And remember, we've been talking about this sequence where you get that inside, outside, inside, and then the range extension. And there it is, keeps going. Inside weeks, outside bar, inside bar, and then the extension. And so what are you going to say? It goes out on the highs. Things are going to look good on the highs. If you go down to another sequence that we had this week, and you take a look at this, this is a good way to be able to identify something. Here you can see this was an inside day here. Then we went outside day yesterday. And we took it yesterday's lows on the outside week slightly and then came right back into it. What that shows us is a range contraction, range expansion, an attempt to take that range and then back in. And so what that's going to give you, when you look at a 60-minute chart, you're going to see this here. This is important so you can see a sequence without having to draw it. So you can see here the broadening formation, higher high, lower low, higher high, lower low, the lower low, and now didn't quite make the higher high. So this is going to be interesting, this formation here going forward into next week to see if we can complete this and keep going, or if we're going to back off, and I'll get to how that's going to look in just a second. If we get a QQQ still going, and you can see this has still got some room to really come back up into this neighborhood up in here. So this right here would just be a lower level expansion of this here. And once again, I talk about this in my weekend video, which I put out on Twitter, at Rob in the Black, or my Smiths in the Black, all one word on YouTube. But you can just see all this kind of stuff. But the big news is also the Dow Jones and the diamond just keep going. And so, if we look at, once again, daily, barely took out the close, but still powering higher. And so when we look at some of this stuff, in the breadth of stuff that's going on, and if you go back to old school Dow Jones theory, transports are a little bit off, but still not by much. And if you look at the weekly here, backs off a little bit, but still right now near the highs. But now we're seeing something we haven't seen in a while, which is helping to keep everything goes. Utes, the utilities coming up with the trannies and the Dow all at once. And so that can be indicative of a blow off top eventually. But what that's telling us is the things are rotating into rotating into everything almost. So if we remember, the utilities were an inside month to the upside, up sideways measured move, and so they're picking up some steam. You even have more defensive like XLP coming up, which we haven't seen. We've seen over the course of the last few years those back off and then the risk on. Right now we're seeing a bunch of piling into everything. For the Qs, SMH still right there near the highs, and you had IBB still poking its head up a little bit, and today goes inside day. But if you go to the XLV was powering a lot higher, and that's got a lot of that old school drugs, the Pfizers and the Mercks and all that kind of stuff going. Also Dow Jones. So if we go to small cap, this thing's still having a little bit of issue, but it's not the end of the world. You can see it backs off, then today it comes up, still up into here. You can see on the month or on the weekly, you'll see here an outside week here, so we want to be aware of that. You can see these slight lower lows here, and now the slight higher highs, and an outside week, so that's a fractal triangle. We're going to be aware of either side of that range expansion because it's outside. It expanded both sides of last week's range, so we want to see if that series continues and which way does it take it out. But when we look at, like I said, we go through the internals and all that kind of stuff, what's amazing here is you can see the bugaboos like the oils. XLE doing this, and XOP was inside week and down, and OIH, and yet the market chugged on. So the question is now, can we get anything out of those, and to try and support? And I'll get to that in just a second. The FAS stalls out on the weekly, not the end of the world, but it is a doji on the week to see how severe of a stall does stall out and then start dropping back in, or is just a rest before going to the highs. And I'll get into that over the weekend a little bit more intensely. So if we get to some of the key inside weeks, who would stay inside week here? You can have some Netflix. Here's going to be inside week near the highs as far as that IBB stuff. Parago, and I've been talking about this to see if this finally has turned the corner up into here to try and measure move and try and challenge all that kind of stuff. And certainly in a bigger name like GILD going inside week. And this, you know how horrendous this has been for so long, to see if this is finally going to turn the corner here in the GILD. As far as the Dow's concerned, we also want to look at any laggards left that would help, or that would conversely try and bring things down. And if you go to Chevron with the oils. Inside week in Chevron, you can see this while the Dow's hitting highs is going down. So what is this inside week going to look like? ExxonMobil still having problems, not an inside week, but going out at the lows. So if we look at inside weeks across in the diamonds, you got Disney going inside week. You've got IBM, you've got Microsoft, and UNH. So these are the equilibriums that couldn't make it to the highs this week to see if they're going to continue that or help bring them in a little bit. And with the FAS, you do have an inside week for Wells Fargo. You've got Delta and the transports, just a few to keep an eye on. But for the most part, you go out on the highs, pretty much everything's going to look good. But when we get that microscope down just a little bit closer, want to see how these energies resolve. We also have another problem here with the XRT retail. And you can see today we had some conflicting news where, here it looked like we're going to fall apart, then we're going to rally back. So XRT retail here, a wild card with the energies still. The follow through, you were seeing the XLV outperforming that IBB. When we see if that IBB can start to turn around. It's also only a few more days left in the month. So come next week, we want to start to see where new monthly allocations go. Does money keep pouring in for the new month? To finish off the quarter. That's going to be interesting too, especially if they start doing some rotation, because at this point, the rotation has changed. We've been seeing that risk on and the risk off, risk on, risk off. Now we're not seeing that. Now we're seeing specifically into the energies in the retail being weak. And so that's either going to change or start to weigh on us. So we're going to keep an eye on that stuff going forward. All right. Hope everybody had a great week and has an even better weekend. And I'll see you next week. I'm Rob Smithy in the Black Quantity VTF here at T3 Live with this week's Market Wrap-Up.